What's up, everybody? Today we're taking a look at some 2D lighting tips and tricks and a few of the different methods I implemented here in SweetPea. Now, as you can see pretty much immediately, lighting is huge in SweetPea. There's a lot going on. We have our text there that has static shadows coming off of it. We have our objects, the walls there that have some lighting built in. We have SweetPea that has a dynamic sort of shading going on. I'm going to jump over here, this nice little intro scene. And here we can see a lot of this going on in a very small section. So you can see the light kind of playing with our text, sort of bleeding in from the background over the hills. You can see the God rays coming in, and these are all using different methods. Even the lighting on the flowers, it's a combination of a bunch of different methods. It all kind of combines to create this, very stylized but still believable and understandable environment where you can see our objects here bringing in, casting these nice volumetric shadows in the environment. And a lot of it is just done with Photoshop, or, well, Photoshop's little brother, GIMP. So it's not incredibly complicated, but you can get some really cool results with it. So we're going to go over a few of those that are used in SweetPea today, and maybe some of them can help you out. You can use them in your 2D project. Now, hopefully we'll be going over Unity's lighting system, like their actual lighting system for 3D lights soon, but right now my big main project is a 2D project, so that's what we're going to focus on. I want to show you another example. So this here with this lava in the zone, I used a combination of essentially a transparent overlay to get the nice sort of light coming from down under effect. And then as you see on SweetPea, I know he's kind of far away right now, but he's constantly lit from underneath. And we'll go over how we accomplish that, and it's actually a pretty simple method. But the overlay effect can have a huge impact on the mood and tone and atmosphere of your levels, your environments, and that was one of the first things I learned how to do with Unity because it's so powerful and so easy to do. So as you can see, when I zoomed in, I kind of clipped through that overlay, and as I turn it off and on, you can see how much it impacts the atmosphere of this zone, and how without it, the lava does not feel believable. It doesn't feel like it's coming from underneath the light. So we're going to take a look at the base file that I used to create that. Here we go. Yeah, so this is literally just a simple gradient that I built in GIMP, and I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. And I use this a lot throughout the game for a lot of different zones. If you have a zone that is sort of cold, and you want some of those cooler tones, some of those bluer tones, then you can switch up the coloration and obviously the gradient style to be able to get what you're looking for. So I just dropped it right back here into GIMP, and you see all it is a gradient, and I have chopped up a little bit of it at the bottom to essentially create some turbulence if I end up wanting to use that in certain zones. What I'm going to do is just create a new layer, and I'm going to pop over here to my gradient tool, and you can just flip through some presets here, and I think this one, yep, Skyline, actually is already a preset, and these are so useful. I want to make sure our shape for this particular effect is set to linear. And bam, just like that, with a couple clicks, you have something that works out well for something as crazy as, lava from underneath, or this would be great for sort of a silhouetted environment with a sun setting in the background. And like I said, you can use this to do a whole lot. So what you would do is make your gradient like that. You'd bring it in to your scene, overlay it over top of whatever objects you want that atmosphere to affect. So you can see I'm moving it around. Same object. And then you would just go in and affect the transparency. So as you see my transparency down here, that affects essentially the strength of your effect. And so it can be very versatile. You can even animate that, which we're going to go over here in just a minute to simulate a few different things. Not going to save that. Alright, so here we have our very first zone in Sweet Pea, and this has a lot of the effects going on. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Another one we're going to go over is this very simple sort of static effect. So this is actually built in to the text here, and it's just using a zoom blur effect. So we can go over that really quick. I'm going to create a new layer, and we'll add some text in. And you can do this, like I said, you can do this with Photoshop or probably Inkscape. I know there's a ridiculous amount of photo editing softwares at this point. And obviously you're not held down on having to use this type of software in particular. You can get some of these effects a whole bunch of different ways. Oh, the text is telling me to tell you to please subscribe. So please like, share, and subscribe if you find this helpful. And check out some of my other videos. I've got quite a range of content at this point, sort of all over the place. Most of it is geared for beginners, just because that's fun and you want to help out the little guy. I mean, there's plenty of people that know what they're doing, know what's going on. I'm trying to get people that are just looking at getting on the road, sitting on the path, and helping them out. But we'll do some more advanced stuff at some point. Alright, so we have our nice please subscribe text there, and all we're going to do is duplicate that layer, or in this case just do a new from visible since it's the only one there. And as you can see, we just have the same thing layered over top of each other, and we're going to darken it up, so brightness and contrast. I'm going to bring the brightness all the way down, the contrast all the way up, hit OK. And then we're going to go up to Filters, Blur. I'm going to go to Zoom Motion Blur. This, depending on your program, could be worded differently, but this function exists in most of these applications. And even if it doesn't, there are other ways you can spoof it with a smudge tool, for example. And I'm sure there's a bunch of other ways. Just like with game development, all aspects, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of different ways to do literally anything you might want to do. So don't be afraid to experiment and have a little bit of fun. As you can see, what we're doing here is simulating where our light would be in our scene with our text. You need to know that ahead of time. And I toss that behind, and we have these nice little rays here. And then I can bring it into its own layer, and bam, it's ready to be brought in-game. You can also have those two layers separate and manipulate those separately in-game via animation, depending on your environment and lighting. Maybe you have the actual sun coming up in your animation. You could have essentially that layer have very low transparency and then bring it in via animation. In this case, I just have a nice text fade out, but it's still the same sort of principle there. Alright, another thing we're going to look at is the shading on Sweet Pea himself. This is one of the later additions. I actually implemented this a couple months back, but I just didn't like it. It was like right whenever I very first put out the demo and was starting to get things going for Steam. And if I'm being honest, Sweet Pea just wasn't where it is now graphically. It wasn't as pretty, and it felt weird for Sweet Pea to have this shading method, and it just didn't blend in. But at this point, I'm feeling pretty good about it, and I really like the effect. So I'm going to grab him in the editor here, and you can see he's rotating there, but he's still always lit from the top left there, where our in-game sun is. Even though we don't have a sun, all the lighting's just created using these methods. So there is no real lighting. It's all set up, but as you can see, as I'm rotating him, he always appears lit from that sort of 45-degree angle top left zone there. And the way I accomplished this is very similar to the scene overlay method that we used for the little lava. I also use that for caves and dungeons and stuff. But you can see it's literally just an overlay specifically mapped to Sweet Pea's shape. In this case, a sphere. It's nice and easy. But I did the same exact methods. You just make you a nice circle in your Photoshop or GIMP or whatever you're looking for, and then shade that as if it were in your environment. I've then gone in and with a finite state machine and set its rotation to maintain its current rotation at all times. And so what you get is the appearance of a shaded spherical object, in this case Sweet Pea. And you can really see it as he's falling down, is rotating. That shading remains coming from the appropriate direction. And that all helps sell the effect. So all this is a lot of small things. We're going to go over another pretty big one that is quite handy, but it is you can use it in specific cases, let's say that. So this is going to be affecting the lighting with animation. You see the spider here, as he goes down into the light, he becomes illuminated, or appears to, and then he is shadowed as he comes up out of the light beam. Now, since we don't have any actual lights in our scene, and there is no actual light being cast on that spider, the method we use there is to build that into his animation system, because he's only doing this one motion. They're very simple creatures. So you see as he comes down, oh, there we go. As he comes down into the light, he is illuminated, and as he goes back up, he's cast into shadow. And you see over here on the left, that is literally just built into the sprite renderer's color via animation. So I literally just, whenever he's not in shadow, I'll make sure and have that a brighter coloration, which lets through that asset shine more, you know what I mean? Like, it allows you to be able to see the coloration of the object, and then as they go into shadow, we darken it back up, and it creates this nice pretty effect of appearing to go in and out of the light, even though there is no light. Speaking of no light, one of my favorite objects in here is my crazy goofy light ray. So this is actually a 3D object. I believe I originally had it as a 2D sprite, but it became beneficial to be able to use the actual material settings on it to get the right effects. But this is the same basic principle as the overlay. So it's literally you're going into GIMP, Photoshop, whatever your program is, and you're building out your shape of your lighting that you want. Probably a little late in the video, but I guess it is a good time to point out that Unity now has a built-in lighting system, a 2D lighting system, that very much mimics a lot of this stuff. And I have tried it out, and it does get some really cool effects, but there are certain things about it that make me prefer to just do it myself. I like to be able to have the say and manipulate things in a very granular way. I want to be able to decide what's going on, and there are limitations to Unity's built-in 2D lighting system. So as you can see, it's literally just a light ray, or the appearance of a light ray. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. I'm just for fun gonna create a square here, and then you can just sort of carve out a shape, and you could use this for all sorts of things because light takes all sorts of shapes. So a light ray is not the only way that you could utilize this method, but maybe like an old cellar door and light coming through the cracks, and so your shape would be different there, and you would need to base your shape on what's happening. So obviously there's a lot of different methods or a lot of different ways this could be used. And I should have had my opacity all the way up for my eraser, but this is just to give you the idea of what's going on. So it's not important that it looks beautiful. And also with a lot of this stuff, it can look pretty rough until you get things lined up just right, and the magic happens, so to speak. Alright, so we've got us a little bit of a light ray here, and another thing, you can essentially affect like the light intensity based on where it's coming from. If you want the light to be very intense at its source, and then it's essentially its fall-off factor, you can affect that manually by going in and changing the opacity, sort of erasing certain sections. Probably be best off actually using a gradient to do that as well, but you get the idea. I would definitely always encourage you to experiment and play with all the settings, you know. The process of learning this stuff is about getting your building blocks down and then learning how to build for yourself. So, you know, nobody showed me this method. I didn't steal it from anybody, but it just is a common sense way to get these sort of things done. I wanted this moody atmosphere, and this made it work. Alright, another quick thing we're going to look at. This is very similar to the volumetric shadows coming off the text. But as you can see, we have a lot of effects layered over top of each other here. We've got our sun ray, but then we also have this sort of volumetric shadow going on coming off of our flower here. And it's parented to it, so I can move it around, and it's always got that. And it'll do the same thing with its animation. Now, for all intents and purposes, this is using the same exact function as we did with the text at the start of the video. But you can specify it to the object, or you can generalize. A lot of these are generalized. I essentially made one for, you know, the flowers, and I made one for some trees, and you know, I made a couple different variations. But you can specify it as much as you want, or have it tied to particular objects. That's just going to cost you more work, time, and obviously your file size and all your data that's occurring. It's easier to line things up to where they work, they serve their purpose, than necessarily being completely physically accurate. But we'll do one specified. I'll try this tree. Oh, no we won't. Alright, here we go. We'll try this tree. We'll just drop that right in. This was made in Blender, by the way. I know it doesn't look like a Blender object, but you can do some really cool stuff with the grease pencil. I'd say go check it out if you haven't. So what I've done is just duplicated this, and then again I'm bringing the brightness all the way down, contrast all the way up. And we're going to do our zoom blur. Again, you're simulating where you expect your lighting to be coming from and how that should look. I will say another cool thing you can do to add some variations is within your black silhouette for your shadow there, you can add in some little spots or even like layer in clouds or noise to produce some turbulence or variance in the shadow as well. So there we go. We've got a specified shadow, and it looks like our light is coming from the top left here, like it's supposed to. Let's stick a little sun in there. So, as you can see, we have used all of these features in combination. And a lot of it is, if you use one in one spot, it's going to look like a small thing, and it is a small thing, but that's what this stuff is all about, is building. And so you have to start from the base, and you'll get a good view when you get to the top. A lot of this stuff takes a while to come together. But overall, I would say I'm very happy with the shading methods used, and I'm very happy with the look of the game and how it's turning out. If this has been helpful at all, please like, share, and subscribe. Comment if you have any questions or anything to add. And I appreciate you guys stopping by. Hope you have a wonderful week, and I'll be back with more as soon as I can. Bye.